Sister went missing 2 years ago. Today I found her secret diary. I loved her more than anyone else, but after finding out why she went missing, I think I might be in danger too. She had just graduated college when she went missing, not even giving me a chance to say goodbye to her. I was filled with anger and misery. The police officers searched frantically, yet were unable to find any clues. However, this is when things started getting weird. After a while of searching, I noticed the officers and investigators referring to my sister Leah in the past tense instead of the present tense. And then I noticed my parents doing it too. They were talking about her as if they knew something about her disappearance. Odd, but at the time I brushed it off as nothing. Until now. I was 19 at the time. I ended up falling out with my parents after Leah died, since we would just argue all day without Leah acting as a mediator. I started busking on the street, barely making enough money between that and odd jobs to afford a trash little apartment. I didn't speak to my parents for over a year after Leah's disappearance, until a few months ago. They apologized, I apologized, and after a bit of hesitant communication, they asked me to come home and visit. If only I'd known this would be my last time visiting home. There'd still been no sign of her over the years, no sort of closure. Like the officers and my parents, I'd begun thinking of my determined, wonderful older sister in the past tense. I guess she could still be alive out there. Technically anything is possible, but everything in me tells me that she's not dead. I avoided her room for the first few days. I was afraid of what I'd find there. Would it hurt more if my parents kept it exactly the same, or if they turned it into something else? I didn't know, and I didn't want to ask. We didn't even talk about Leah, but last night I couldn't sleep. Leah's room was right next to mine. Have you ever experienced silence so profound that it seemed loud? The silence from Leah's room drilled into my ears until my head ached. Finally, I stood up. This wasn't going to go away if I ignored it. As it turned out, neither of my fears were quite right. The room wasn't exactly as Leah had left it. Mom and Dad used it for storage, apparently. There were boxes stacked on the floor and an old sewing machine in one corner. But Leah's bed still sat against the wall. Her desk still sat by the window. I sat heavily in her desk chair, heart aching. I just wanted my sister back. At the very least, I wanted to know what happened to her. The desk had a little cubby for books, still full of Leah's notebooks. I skimmed through them with my fingertips, reading the covers of each one. English comp, journalism, marketing, math. I laughed reading math, knowing how much she hated that class. I missed her so much. The last notebook's cover was blank. I pulled it out, curiosity getting the better of me. I flipped it open to a random page and was met with lines of my sister's neat handwriting. My own name jumped out at me from the page. I started reading. Naomi sent me a recording of her newest song. It was really good. I'm glad that she's still playing, even with her classes. My eyes watered, and I reached up to brush away the tears before they could land on the page and smear it. The notebook turned out to be half diary, half dream journal. I felt myself getting sucked in. Leah had a way with words. But then, about a month before she disappeared, the tone of the diary entries changed. That's really the best way I can describe it. And since I don't have my sister's way with words, I continued reading, with the next page showing a dream journal and diary entry. May 30th. Last night's dream. I sat in a cottage like something out of a fairy tale. A woman sat across from me. I don't remember all the details, but I remember that her black hair was straight and so long that it pooled on the floor. And I remember the words we exchanged perfectly. She said, "Give me your name, child." And I told her, "Leah." She smiled, revealing teeth that seemed just a little too white to be natural. "Leah," she said, like she was tasting it. "That will do nicely." For some reason, I woke up shivering. I've never had a nightmare that weird before. Didn't really do too much today, but we visited Grandpa in the evening. His mind is barely there since he's getting old. When Mom walked into his room, he smiled and called her Mary, which isn't her name. He has dementia, so he finds it hard. Now he's called Mom every name under the sun at this point. Barbara, Denise, Sandra, whatever. She always takes it in stride. Sure, you can tell it hurts a little, but she knows he doesn't mean it. She always just laughs it off and reminds him, "No, Dad, it's Gina, remember?" But she didn't do that this time. She stumbled back like he'd slapped her, and tears welled up in her eyes. She had to rush from the room before she started sobbing. I tried to go after her, but Dad put a hand on my shoulder, told me that he'd take care of it, and that I shouldn't mention it to her when I got back. It really left some kind of bad taste in my mouth. I don't know. Something was wrong. I wiped the tears from my eyes as I read. My granddad is gone now, but he was lovely. I wish my sister had just spoken to me about her nightmares and her problems. Maybe I could have helped her, but I continued reading, terrified of what was going to come next. June 3rd. Mom's been acting weird. Ever since that thing with Grandpa happened, she's been weird, nervous, on the verge of tears. It feels like she's avoiding people, avoiding me at least. She walks out of the room whenever I walk into it. Dad won't tell me anything. So with nowhere else to turn, I decided to call in the big guns. I called Aunt Emily. Aunt Emily knows all the family gossip and can't resist sharing it at literally the slightest provocation. So I knew that if anyone would be able to tell me who Mary is, it would be her. She got really quiet as soon as I asked, though. She asked, "Where did you hear that name?" After I explained what happened, she sighed. "Your poor mother," she said. "Mary was her older sister. She went missing. Lord, it must have been decades ago by now. They were really very close, heartbreaking. I didn't know what to say. Mom always told us that she was an only child. I get not wanting to talk about something that was traumatic, but outright lying. I want to know more about this." I stopped reading. It was getting harder and harder each page I read. My mother had a lost sister that I never knew about, and my sister didn't know about either. Why does my family have so many secrets? I still needed clues to where she went missing, so I continued. June 6th. I finally found something on Mary. Google had nothing, libraries had nothing. But eventually, I remembered those commercials for that Ancestry website that's supposed to help you find news and records of old relatives and stuff, and I tried that. That actually turned something up. A small obituary for Mary Bennett. The obituary explained that while no evidence of Mary's death was ever found, after so many years with no leads or contact, the family has decided to declare her dead. The obituary was their attempt to move on. My heart sank, reading that. I couldn't imagine how that must feel, to lose someone and never get any closure. Is that why Mom lied? I wanted to understand, but I couldn't. If it had been Naomi, it would hurt to lose her, hurt in a way that I can't even put into words. But I don't think I'd be able to pretend that she didn't exist. I'd have to keep her memory alive somehow. I don't know. I'm not judging or anything, or I'm not trying to, but I don't understand. So later on, I went back on that Ancestry website. I don't really know why. I just keep trying to wrap my head around all of this, I guess. But I'm left with more questions than answers. Grandma had an older sister that went missing, too. And so did her mom. I don't know how far back this goes. Some of the records just aren't there, but there are a lot of missing eldest daughters in our family tree. I want to believe it's a coincidence. I really, really do, but I don't know if I can. That dream I had a few nights ago in the cottage, I can still smell it. I broke down even more into tears. I'm surprised my mother didn't come into the room from hearing me wailing in tears. I started putting together the pieces from the diary, but I didn't want to believe it. I flicked onto the next page. It was another dream journal, this time even weirder than the last. Something was starting to go horribly wrong. June 8th. Last night's dream. The cottage again. It was even worse than last time. There were cobwebs everywhere, and it smelled sickly sweet like rotten fruit. Only the woman sitting across the table from me seemed unchanged. "What is this place?" I asked. "You're home, soon enough," the woman replied. "Not that I think you'll have much time to spend in it. We have so much planned for you, Leah." From outside the window I heard laughter. Laughter and the sounds of the forest. "Why are you doing this?" I cried out. I wanted answers. I wanted something. The closure that my mom never got, maybe. "A debt as old as time, dear child," the woman replied. "Paid in the flesh of the firstborn." "I don't want to die," I cried. I'd never felt so hopeless. What little skepticism I managed to cling to during my waking hours disappears entirely in these dreams. The woman smiled. "Who said anything about dying, Leah?" I realized what was happening. "Paid in the flesh of the firstborn," she said. "Leah was my mother's firstborn. This couldn't be happening. Surely this wasn't true." June 16th. The dreams come every night now. I can't bring myself to write them down. They're getting more solid. Before they felt like dreams, but not anymore. I can smell, taste, and touch everything I encounter. Sometimes it's my waking hours that feel like dreams. There was one more entry. I flicked the page knowing exactly what was going to come. June 24th. She's coming tonight. I'm not ready, but I have to be. I can smell the rotting wood, hear laughter just beyond the walls. This world seems insubstantial now, like a sheer curtain hiding a world of depravity. I don't know. I just don't know what to say. I feel like I should have some last words or something, but I don't. I can't think of a single thing to say. I'm sorry. I don't know what to do. I've just gotten pregnant a few weeks ago with my boyfriend. It's going to be our firstborn child. I can't shake the fear that my baby might be next. The joy of expecting is overshadowed by a chilling dread, a nightmare I can't escape, as I grapple with the possibility that my deepest desire might lead to my greatest heartache.